In today's chilling story, we'll dive into one of the most infamous unsolved mysteries in American history, the Zodiac Killer. For decades, the identity of the Zodiac Killer has baffled law enforcement, researchers, and armchair detectives alike. In this episode, we'll revisit the gruesome crimes, the cryptic letters, and the endless speculation surrounding the killer's identity. We'll also examine new evidence and theories that have emerged, which may finally bring us closer to uncovering the truth. The Zodiac Killer is believed to have committed at least 5 murders in Northern California between 1968 and 1969, though he claimed to have killed as many as 37 people. His victims were often young couples parked in remote areas, and his modus operandi included sudden, brutal attacks. But what made these crimes even more chilling were the taunting letters he sent to newspapers, in which he bragged about his killings, mocked law enforcement, and even included cryptic ciphers that he challenged the public to solve. The first known Zodiac attack occurred on December 20th, 1968, when 17-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and her 16-year-old boyfriend, David Faraday, were shot and killed on a remote road near Vallejo, California. They were parked in a car, enjoying a quiet evening together when a man approached them and shot them both at close range. There was no obvious motive for the attack, and there were no survivors to give a description of the killer. Less than 7 months later, on July 4th, 1969, a second attack occurred, this time involving 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin and her 19-year-old boyfriend, Michael Mageau. The couple was also parked in a secluded area known as Blue Rock Springs Park when a man approached their car, opened fire, and shot both of them multiple times. Miraculously, Mageau survived the attack and later provided a description of the assailant as a white male, around 5'8", tall, with a stocky build. What made this attack different from the first was that the killer did not flee immediately after the shooting. Instead, he walked over to the car, stood over the victims, and shot them again before walking away. As with the first crime, there were no immediate leads, and investigators were left with few clues. The most infamous attack, however, occurred on the night of September 27, 1969, when the Zodiac Killer struck again. This time, he targeted 26-year-old Brian Hartnell and his girlfriend, 22-year-old Cecilia Ann Shepard. The couple was enjoying a peaceful afternoon at Lake Berryessa, located near Napa, California, when the killer approached them wearing a distinctive hooded costume, with a symbol resembling a cross circle on his chest. The Zodiac Killer tied up the couple before stabbing them repeatedly. During the attack, he even took the time to carve the same symbol into Hartnell's car door. Afterward, he left the scene and made his way to a nearby phone booth, where he called the police, bragging about the attack and taking credit for the murder. Despite the brutal nature of the crime and the chilling message left behind, Hartnell and Shepard both survived the attack. Hartnell later provided a detailed description of the man who attacked them, saying he appeared to be in his late 20s, had a stocky build, and stood around 5'8". However, the most notable part of the case was the fact that the Zodiac Killer had once again evaded capture. As if the attacks weren't terrifying enough, the Zodiac Killer's actions were compounded by his cryptic and taunting letters sent to local newspapers. In these letters, he claimed responsibility for the murders and included coded messages that he urged readers to decode. The first of these letters was sent on July 31st, 1969, just days after the Blue Rock Springs attack. The letter contained a 408-character cipher, which the Zodiac called a cipher for the good people to solve. The Zodiac Killer's letters were unlike anything law enforcement had encountered before. He boasted about his killings, threatened to continue his spree, and demanded that his letters be printed in their entirety. In one particularly disturbing letter, he wrote, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all." His letters were filled with disturbing quotes like this, making it clear that he enjoyed the fear he was instilling in the public. At the time, many people tried to crack the Zodiac ciphers, but it wasn't until 51 years later that the first cipher was finally solved. In December 2020, a team of cryptographers revealed that they had cracked the infamous 340-character cipher that had eluded authorities for decades. The solution, however, did not provide any concrete clues about the Zodiac's identity, only more cryptic messages. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror seemed to end as abruptly as it began. After 1969, the killer's attacks became fewer and less frequent. In 1974, the Zodiac sent his final letter, claiming to be planning more murders but never following through. Over time, the case grew cold, and the Zodiac Killer's identity remained a mystery. But in recent years, new developments have sparked fresh interest in the case. The most significant breakthrough came in 2020 when the FBI announced that they had reopened their investigation into the Zodiac Killer following the advancement of DNA technology. The FBI has been working with genealogists to analyze DNA evidence from the crime scenes, hoping to match it with potential suspects. One of the most promising leads comes from a man named Gary Francis Poste, a convicted murderer who died in 2018. In 2021, a group of amateur investigators claimed that Poste had ties to the Zodiac Killer's crimes. They argued that Poste's appearance matched witness descriptions of the killer, and they pointed to a possible link between Poste and several of the Zodiac's letters. However, authorities have yet to confirm or deny this theory. In addition to the DNA evidence, several new theories have emerged regarding the Zodiac Killer's identity. One of the most notable involves a man named Arthur Leigh Allen, who was previously considered a suspect by police. Allen was a convicted child molester and a known loner who had a fascination with the Zodiac case. However, despite several pieces of circumstantial evidence linking Allen to the murders, there was never enough concrete proof to charge him. In 2002, DNA evidence excluded Allen as the Zodiac Killer, but his name continues to surface in discussions about the case. His association with the Zodiac remains one of the most controversial aspects of the investigation, with some researchers still convinced that he was the killer, despite the lack of solid evidence. As the investigation continues, new theories and revelations are likely to emerge. Advances in forensic technology, combined with the work of amateur sleuths, have kept the mystery of the Zodiac Killer alive for decades. It's possible that one day we will finally know the identity of the infamous killer, and justice will be served for the victims who were terrorized by his senseless violence. In the meantime, the case remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, and the search for the Zodiac Killer continues. Will we ever uncover the truth? Or will the identity of the Zodiac Killer remain locked away forever in the shadows of history? That's the mystery we are left with today. Despite the passage of time, the chilling legacy of the Zodiac Killer remains a haunting reminder of the terror that gripped Northern California and the questions that continue to haunt us.